NEC Section 110.21b necessitates that electrical equipment is marked with its voltage, current, or wattage. However, it's important to note that this section doesn't provide specific guidance on the size or precise placement of these labels. NEC Section 130.2 requires panel boards to be marked with their voltage and current rating, specifically if these panel boards are permanently installed. NFPA 70E Section 130.3 dictates that electrical equipment must be labeled with its voltage and current rating. Crucially, this standard emphasizes that the label should be readily visible from a safe distance. OSHA Regulation 29 CFR Section 1910.303 mandates that electrical equipment is labeled with its voltage, current, and wattage. Similar to the NEC, this OSHA regulation does not provide explicit details regarding the size or placement of the required label. While the NEC and NFPA 70E do not specifically mandate that labels on every panel must be visible from 5 feet away, both organizations emphasize the importance of labeling electrical equipment with its voltage and current rating. OSHA also has similar requirements for electrical equipment labeling. Considering the potential hazards associated with electrical equipment, it is generally considered a best practice to ensure that all panels are clearly labeled with their voltage and current rating. This practice ensures that workers can quickly and easily identify the electrical characteristics of the panel, thereby helping to prevent accidents and injuries. It is recommended to label all panels with their voltage and current rating. Use labels that are visible from a safe distance, such as at least 5 feet away. Consider using larger labels or placing them in a more prominent location for improved visibility. When dealing with electrical installations, safety is paramount, and adhering to the standards set by the NEC, NFPA 70E, and OSHA is crucial. The following provides a more detailed explanation of the relevant requirements, as well as best practices for electrical panel labeling. Firstly, the National Electrical Code, or NEC, is a widely adopted standard for the safe installation of electrical wiring and equipment in the United States. Several sections of the NEC address the labeling of electrical equipment, ensuring that individuals working with or around such equipment are aware of its electrical characteristics. NEC Section 110.21b specifically focuses on the identification of electrical equipment. This section mandates that electrical equipment must be clearly marked with its voltage, current, or wattage rating. The purpose of this requirement is to provide essential information to electricians, maintenance personnel, and other qualified individuals, enabling them to safely work with the equipment. However, it is important to note that NEC Section 110.21b does not specify the size, color, or exact placement of the required labels. The NEC provides flexibility in these aspects, allowing the installer to determine the most appropriate labeling method based on the specific equipment and installation environment. Secondly, NEC Section 130.2 addresses the marking of panel boards. Panel boards are distribution points for electrical circuits and are commonly found in commercial and industrial facilities. NEC Section 130.2 requires that panel boards be marked with their voltage and current rating, especially if they are permanently installed. This requirement ensures that individuals working with panel boards can quickly and easily identify the electrical characteristics of the equipment, thereby minimizing the risk of electrical shock or other hazards. Thirdly, NFPA 70E, also known as the Standard for Electrical Safety in the Workplace, provides guidance on safe work practices for employees who work on or near energized electrical equipment. NFPA 70E Section 130.3 specifically addresses the labeling of electrical equipment. Similar to the NEC, NFPA 70E requires that electrical equipment be labeled with its voltage and current rating. However, NFPA 70E goes a step further by stating that the label should be readily visible from a safe distance. This requirement reflects the importance of being able to quickly assess the electrical characteristics of equipment without having to approach it too closely. Fourthly, OSHA, or the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, is a federal agency responsible for ensuring safe and healthful working conditions for employees. OSHA Regulation 29 CFR Section 1910.303 addresses the labeling of electrical equipment. This regulation requires that electrical equipment be labeled with its voltage, current, and wattage rating. The purpose of this requirement is to provide essential information to employees who work with or near electrical equipment, enabling them to take appropriate safety precautions. While OSHA Regulation 29 CFR Section 1910.303 does not specify the size or placement of the required labels, it is generally understood that the labels should be readily visible and legible. While the NEC NFPA 70E and OSHA all require electrical equipment to be labeled with its voltage, current, and wattage rating, there is no specific requirement that labels on every panel must be visible from a distance of 5 feet. However, given the potential hazards associated with electrical equipment, it is generally considered good practice to ensure that all panels are clearly labeled with their electrical characteristics. The following are some best practices for electrical panel labeling. Firstly, label all panels with their voltage and current rating. This is the most basic and essential step in ensuring electrical safety. The labels should be clear, legible, and durable, and they should be placed in a prominent location on the panel. Secondly, use labels that are visible from a safe distance. While there is no specific requirement that labels must be visible from 5 feet away, it is a good idea to use labels that are large enough and bright enough to be easily seen from a distance. This will allow individuals to quickly assess the electrical characteristics of the panel without having to approach it too closely. Thirdly, consider using larger labels or placing them in a more prominent location for improved visibility. If the panel is located in a dimly lit area or if it is difficult to access, it may be necessary to use larger labels or place them in a more prominent location to ensure that they are easily visible. Fourthly, use color-coded labels to indicate different voltage levels. This can help to quickly identify the voltage level of the panel, which can be especially useful in facilities with multiple voltage systems. For example, you could use yellow labels for 120/240 volts panels, orange labels for 208 volts panels, and blue labels for 480 volts panels. Fifthly, include additional information on the labels, such as the panel's identification number, the date of installation, and the name of the contractor who installed the panel. This information can be helpful for maintenance and troubleshooting purposes. Sixthly, regularly inspect the labels to ensure that they are still legible and in good condition. Over time, labels can become faded, damaged, or detached. It is important to inspect the labels regularly and replace them as needed. Seventhly, train employees on the importance of electrical panel labeling and how to interpret the information on the labels. This will help to ensure that employees understand the electrical characteristics of the equipment they are working with and that they can take appropriate safety precautions. Consider these other factors when labeling electrical panels. Firstly, the environment in which the panel is located. If the panel is located in a harsh environment, such as a dusty or wet area, it is important to use labels that are designed to withstand these conditions. Secondly, the size and layout of the panel. The label should be sized and placed in a way that is easy to read and does not obstruct access to the panel's components. Thirdly, the company's safety policies and procedures. The labeling of electrical panels should be consistent with the company's overall safety program. By following these best practices, you can help to ensure that electrical panels are clearly labeled with their electrical characteristics, which can help to prevent accidents and injuries. In summary, while the NEC NFPA 70E and OSHA do not explicitly require labels on every panel to be visible from 5 feet away, they do require electrical equipment to be labeled with its voltage, current, and wattage rating. Given the potential for hazards associated with electrical equipment, it is generally considered good practice to ensure that all panels are clearly labeled with their electrical characteristics. This helps ensure that workers can quickly and easily identify the electrical characteristics of the panel, which can help prevent accidents and injuries. To further elaborate on the topic, it's essential to understand the specific details of these standards and regulations. The NEC, published by the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, is updated every 3 years. It's a comprehensive set of guidelines that aims to safeguard people and property from electrical hazards. The NEC is not federal law, but it's widely adopted by state and local jurisdictions in the United States. When a local jurisdiction adopts the NEC, it becomes legally enforceable. NFPA 70E provides guidance on safe work practices to protect employees from electrical hazards in the workplace. It focuses on reducing the risk of electrical shock, arc flash, and arc blast. OSHA enforces workplace safety standards, including those related to electrical safety. OSHA standards are based on the NEC and NFPA 70E, but they are legally binding and carry penalties for non-compliance. Now, let's dive into the specifics of labeling requirements. Firstly, voltage rating. This indicates the maximum voltage that the panel is designed to handle. It's crucial for selecting appropriate personal protective equipment, or PPE, and for understanding the potential hazards associated with the panel. Secondly, current rating. This indicates the maximum amount of current that the panel can safely carry. Exceeding the current rating can lead to overheating, equipment damage, and fire hazards. Thirdly, wattage rating. While not always required, the wattage rating provides information on the panel's power capacity. It's helpful for determining the load that the panel can support. In addition to these basic requirements, it's often beneficial to include other information on the labels. Firstly, panel identification number. A unique identifier for the panel, which helps with tracking and maintenance. Secondly, date of installation. This helps to determine the age of the panel and its components. Thirdly, contractor information. The name and contact information of the contractor who installed the panel. Fourthly, circuit directory. A list of the circuits served by the panel, along with the corresponding loads. When selecting labels, it's important to consider the following factors. Firstly, material. The label should be made of a durable material that can withstand the environment in which the panel is located. Secondly, adhesion. The label should have a strong adhesive that will keep them securely attached to the panel. Thirdly, legibility. The label should be easy to read and understand. Fourthly, size. The label should be sized appropriately for the panel and the amount of information that needs to be included. When installing labels, it's important to follow these guidelines. Firstly, clean the surface of the panel before applying the labels. Secondly, apply the label smoothly and evenly. Thirdly, ensure that the labels are securely attached to the panel. Fourthly, protect the labels from damage. Regularly inspect the labels to ensure that they are still legible and in good condition. Replace damaged or missing labels immediately. In addition to labeling, it's important to implement other safety measures to protect workers from electrical hazards. Firstly, lockout/tagout procedures. These procedures ensure that electrical equipment is de-energized before any work is performed. Secondly, personal protective equipment. Workers should wear appropriate PPE, such as gloves, safety glasses, and arc-rated clothing when working on or near energized electrical equipment. Thirdly, training. Workers should receive adequate training on electrical safety and safe work practices. Fourthly, regular inspections. Electrical equipment should be regularly inspected to identify and correct any potential hazards. By following these guidelines, you can help to ensure that electrical panels are properly labeled and that workers are protected from electrical hazards. Now consider a situation where a maintenance worker is asked to troubleshoot a lighting issue in a commercial building. The worker approaches an electrical panel and notices that it's not clearly labeled. The voltage and current ratings are not readily visible. This lack of information creates a safety hazard. The worker is unsure of the appropriate PPE to use and the potential risks associated with the panel. This scenario highlights the importance of clear and visible labeling. Without proper labeling, workers are at risk of electrical shock, arc flash, and other serious injuries. In contrast, imagine a similar scenario where the electrical panel is clearly labeled with its voltage and current ratings. The maintenance worker can quickly assess the panel's electrical characteristics and select the appropriate PPE. This simple act of labeling significantly reduces the risk of accidents and injuries. The worker can safely troubleshoot the lighting issue and restore power to the affected area. The information presented here is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and standards. Remember, electrical safety is everyone's responsibility. By following the guidelines and best practices outlined above, you can help to create a safer working environment for yourself and others.